This is Nick Nielsen, Mad Scientist of Muscle, and I've got some good and bad scientist stuff here for you today. This is a band bounce squat, essentially. Now, what you're going to need for this is a couple of specialized pieces of equipment. You're going to need a bar, a hands-free bar, essentially, hands-free squat bar, because this is going to be self-spotting using a band. Now, I've got a Mars bar set up in the rack here. This is a fantastic bar, great for focusing on the glutes and hamstrings, posterior chain when you're doing squats. You can also use any sort of safety squat bar for this. Literally anything that allows you to be hands-free, no hands on the bar when you're doing a squat. Because what you're going to do here is take a regular thick band. I've used it with a medium band all the way up to this thick black one. The black one is the best way to go, especially once you start getting into heavier weights. You're also going to need a squat rack that has the ability to either set a pin in here, or I've actually got dip handles that I've looped the band around here. Alternatively, if you have a rack that you can slide the rails in and out of, you can always loop the rails in through that band and then loop the band around the rails as you put them in. That's going to give you a very similar effect, especially as you're using the heavier bands. All I did here was loop one end, stretch it, loop it around the dip belt. Now, what does this do? This allows you to use the full weight on the negative. So you're going to be coming down very similar to like a Hatfield squat where you're grabbing onto something in front of you. That's what you're going to do here. You're going to grab onto the band. You're not going to stretch the band yet. So you're going to do a negative with the full weight, letting your hands come up like this. Out of the bottom, you're going to hammer down really hard on that band. So right at that very bottom spot, push down really hard on that band, push all the way down and through. That's going to help launch you out of the bottom of the squat, which is the hole, which is the toughest part of the exercise. Now, this is going to allow you to get accustomed to definitely heavier weights than you normally could do with a full squat without a band. So it's kind of like a reverse band squat, but without help on the negative. So you're going to come down, full load on the negative, push down on the band at the bottom. That's going to help propel you out of the bottom. As you're coming up, release the tension in the band and really focus on accelerating all the way to the top as fast as you can, firing those quads, firing the glutes, hamstrings, literally everything. So here's what it looks like. Again, you will absolutely need a hands-free bar for this one. This is how it works. So, grab a belt, and this is the black bands are about the thickest bands you can get. And I'll list a few of my preferred sources for bands in the description here. Sure. Alright, so here's what this looks like. Now, one thing when you're doing this, if you're using dip handles like this, you will need to sit far away enough so that these plates don't hit the hook or whatever, pin or handles, whatever you're using. When you come to the top, you probably will end up leaning a little bit forward. It's not a huge deal. Just know that that's probably going to happen. So. So that's what that looks like, and I've got 385 pounds on the bar just for reference here. Now, you probably noticed on the last rep that it wasn't as explosive. Now, this is the tail end of a pretty long squat workout when I came up with this insane technique. So as you're doing this more fresher, you're going to be able to do more weight. Now, as I was doing this on that last rep, I was actually pushing a fair bit more than on the first couple of reps. So ideally, you want to really give it a good bounce out of the bottom and use your legs to power basically past that sticking point from there. So if you've got the equipment, if you've got a hands-free bar capability, you've got a good thick band, you've got a way to attach it onto the rack, it's a fantastic way to train squats. Again, key here is do not stretch the band on the negative. We want to take the full load on your legs, on the negative, all the way until you're at the point where you want to launch yourself out of the bottom. Killer exercise, killer technique, and I'm going to be using this one a lot from now on.